All right, so just for anyone, members of the public, if you can kindly just mute yourself until you're ready to speak to your application, this would be great. It just reduces any background noise. Thank you. And Lee, you are good to go when you are ready. I have started the live stream.
Okie doke. Okay, John's not available today, so I'm your chair today.
All right.
Yeah, that's my job. So I require a mover and a seconder then for a resolution to convene as a committee of adjustment for the July 12th, 2023 hearing, please.
So moved.
Len and Greg. That the Committee of Adjustment for the Corporation of the Township of Seguin hereby convenes at 4:01 p.m. on Wednesday, July 12th, as per the Planning Act. Applicants in the public can speak at the public meeting.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, just all in favor.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor? Okay. Applicants and the public can speak at the public meeting. When asked who wishes to speak to an application, please raise your hand, state your name and address, and direct all comments through me. Notice of its decisions will be sent to the applicant and to the public if requested. Only the prescribed persons as per the Planning Act may appeal a decision or condition of approval within 20 days after the decision. Next, I require a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda for today's meeting. Greg and Wib. All in favor? And I require a mover and a seconder for the resolution to accept the minutes of the previous meeting of the committee.
I'll move that.
I'm sorry,
I'll
Greg.
move that, Les.
And disclosure area of pecuniary interest. I now ask the
Oh,
committee.
sorry, Mr. Chair. If you can just read the resolution for the minutes and then just all in favor again. We'll
Okay,
get
I'm
the
looking
vote.
for the resolution for the minutes in my package. Okay, that the Committee of Adjustment for the Corporation of the Township of Seguin hereby accepts and reads and circulated the minutes of its last meeting that took place on Wednesday, June 14th, 2023. All in favor? Carried. And finally, disclosure of pecuniary interest. I now ask the Committee of Adjustment for disclosure of any pecuniary interest with respect to today's application. None noted. Okay, I now ask the Secretary Treasurer to introduce the first file, Denham.
Thank you. The purpose of minor variance application A-2023-0016-C for Denham is to demolish the existing non-compliant dwelling on the subject lands and construct a new dwelling with attached open porches further away from the shoreline, requiring a variance for front yard setback and for open porch encroachments. The owners are also proposing to build a detached garage, requiring an increase in maximum permitted height. Correspondence in support of the application was received from Dave and Sabin Arstad and Michael Wilson.
Do we have anybody in attendance today who would like to speak to the Denham file?
I'm here. It's Mark Denham.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not very familiar with these proceedings. So if there's something, do I need to explain what I'm trying to do? And if somebody can explain it to me, then I can speak. Otherwise, I'll just keep quiet.
Okay, is there anybody on committee that has any questions or comments on this file for Mr. Denham?
No question here.
Lynn?
No, no.
Oh,
Seems
okay.
straightforward.
All right then. Okay, I require a mover and a seconder then for the resolution to be brought forward for this application. Greg
Second.
and Lynn? Okay, that the Committee of Adjustment hereby. Oh, we haven't done. That the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves variance application A 2023-0016C Denham to demolish the existing non-compliant dwelling and construct a new dwelling with attached open porches further away from the shoreline. Dwelling front yard setback 18 meters, open porch front yard setback 15.7 meters. The owners are also proposing to build a detached garage requiring an increase in maximum permitted height. Variances are requested to the following sections of the zoning bylaw 2006-125. Section 6.3, table 6.2, minimum front yard setback for a dwelling 20 meters, proposed 18 meters, existing 13.2, variance required 2 meters, an increase of 4.8 meters from existing. Section 4.21, table 4.2, maximum projection from required front yard, open porch, 3 meters, proposed 4.3 meters, variance required, increase of 1.3 meters. Section 4.1.4, maximum accessory structure building height, maximum permitted 4.5 meters, proposed 5.5 meters, variance required 1 meter. All in favor?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
If you can just read this subject to the following conditions as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, the application is subject to the following conditions: that the owner applies for and obtains a permit for the cottage and the boathouse within 2 years of the date of decision of the Committee of Adjustment, and the extent of the variance will be generally limited to that shown on the sketch plans submitted in the application. All in favor?
Question?
Lynn?
Well, how do we know that the owner has done that?
If you want me to jump in, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, so sorry, we'll amend that to the cottage and the garage. It shouldn't be boathouse. But we will, as staff, we will be following up with the conditions of the minor variances in that lab state. So we will be following up.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, if the secretary treasurer would bring the next file forward, please.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Mr. Denham. So the application was approved and you will get a decision the next few days.
Okay, thank you so much.
Um,
Appreciate your time. Hard work. Bye now.
So the next application is A-2023-0017-H for Callery and Dean. And the purpose is to demolish and reconstruct the non-complying second dwelling on the subject lands. Variance is required to permit the reconstruction and expansion of the second dwelling. Correspondence in support of the application was received from Susan Paul.
Okay. All right, I require a mover and a seconder then to bring this application forward. Greg, Lynn? Okay, that the Committee of Adjustment.
Oh, sorry,
Good.
Mr. Chair, we'll just open it up for questions first,
okay.
and anything from the applicants if they're here.
I should do this more often.
Just a question. I'm a little confused as to how you determine it's a variance when it's non-compliant. Is there a set of rules that are specific to that? I wasn't quite certain as to how that process actually worked.
Hi, Len, just to answer. So your question is, how do we determine if it's a variance for the non-complying
A
dwelling?
minor variance, I guess, yeah, especially.
Yeah, a minor variance. So the dwelling is existing. It did receive a permit. I believe this one received a permit, and Ryan Allen, the agent, is here and he can comment further if he wishes. But I believe the permit was issued in 1974 for the second dwelling. So it's an existing legal non-complying dwelling. So we're looking at a variance to section 417B of the zoning bylaw for the redevelopment of that dwelling. Does that answer the question for you, Len?
Well, I mean, it just seems, I see that in size, or height, like the height might be 30% higher than it is in a normal variance, in a normal disposition, I should say. Yeah, like I'm just a little confused as to what I should be looking at when I look at this type of structure that is proposed. Like it says, has to be lower than the trees or something like that, rather than so many meters.
So we have just to comment on that, we have a maximum height provision for dwellings for principal uses such as dwellings and cottages. That maximum height provision is 10 meters. So this application is not exceeding that 10 meters. The variance is to permit the additional height from the existing to the proposed new dwelling.
Mhm.
I believe it is going from around 5 meters to 7, I think it's 7.9 meters.
7.2, yeah.
Yes, 7.9. So we're looking at that overall difference of the increase in height, but we do have a maximum height provision of 10 meters for a cottage under the zoning bylaw.
So it's not the difference in what the height is in the existing non-compliant, it's what it's going to be.
Well, we're taking into consideration both the expansion from the existing to the new proposed cottage. And then we're also looking at what the overall height permitted on a residential shoreline property is.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions with regards to the Calgary Dean file? Comments?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I noticed that the agent is in as well. Maybe we'll just open up to them to see if they want to provide comments as well.
Okay. Okay, is there any other comments on this file?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Ryan Allen. I am the professional planner and agent representing Katie Callery and Greg Dean with their application today. I do have a brief presentation that I would like to share. If I could just cue it up. Thank you, staff, for their positive recommendation, thorough analysis, and as well, Brady, for providing some additional context in the comments you just provided. The subject property is located at 75 Old Portage Road on Little Lake Joseph, in particular on the north end and the east shore. The only variance that is proposed today is related to the reconstruction and enlargement of an existing second dwelling on the property that will have increased volume and increased height. The proposed development complies fully with all other requirements of the bylaw. This is the site plan that shows the existing dwelling outlined in red. There are 2 dwellings on the property, and both are proposed to be redeveloped. Dwelling number 1 is the original dwelling that was built in 1953 on the property. It's proposed to be redeveloped with an increased setback from the shoreline, moving from 35 feet to almost 55 feet. And it will be fully compliant with the bylaw and proceed with a building permit application. Dwelling number 2, which was constructed in 1974 with a building permit. However, the zoning bylaw has changed since that time and does not allow the increase in height or volume of a second dwelling on a property without planning approval. Hence the reason for the application here today. The dwelling 2 exceeds the minimum 20-meter shoreline setback, which I think is one of the key requirements or components of this application. And I noted on this site plan, there's a green shaded area. The largest lot is quite large at over 2.2 hectares in area and over 170 meters of straight line frontage. But practically half the lot is fully undeveloped, primarily due to substantial steep slopes that exist on the property. There's a large number of steep slopes on the lot, and the existing development is directed to the pockets of those slopes. This is the rear of the existing cottage number 2 that's proposed to be removed. This is from the deck in front of cottage number 2 to be removed. You'll see that there's a substantial shoreline buffer that provides considerable screening and buffering. There's a stake located in the ground. That is the corner of the new proposed dwelling at the closest setback. So you'll see that the new building largely is located within the footprint of the existing building. This limits site alteration and tree removal. This is dwelling number 1 that's proposed to be redeveloped on the existing footprint. However, with an increased setback from the shoreline, it will proceed simply by a building permit application. This is a photo of dwelling number 1 and the shoreline buffer that's in front of it from the existing dock that's attached to the boathouse. As you can see from this angle, the existing building is not visible whatsoever from the lakeside view. And if we move farther along the shoreline to dwelling number 2, which is the location of the proposed new dwelling, you'll also see that there is a substantial shoreline buffer in front of this dwelling as well. It is elevated above the shoreline. However, it's also not visible from the lakeside view. In terms of planning analysis, I mentioned that the setback of dwelling number 1 is proposed to be increased fairly substantially from 19 feet to almost 45 feet, or 54 feet, excuse me. And there's an overall net reduction of building area within 20 meters of the shoreline. The height, the width, the floor area of dwelling number 1 fully complies. Dwelling number 2 exceeds the minimum 20-meter setback from the shoreline by almost 4 meters. Dwelling number 2, the footprint itself, even though the volume is becoming larger, the footprint on the ground is reduced by almost 150 square feet in area. Dwelling number 2 is 7.9 meters in height. The existing building is 5.2 meters. But it's well below the 10 meter maximum of a dwelling. The dwelling number 2 has 323 square meters of floor area, which is much less than the maximum 700 permitted by the zoning bylaw. The development has been specifically designed, and Ian McLaren, the architect, worked very closely with the owners at avoiding steep slopes and finding locations that limited tree removal as much as possible and required no blasting or site alteration within 20 meters of the shoreline. The proposed 5% lot coverage within 60 meters of the shoreline fully complies with the bylaw requirement. There's considerable side yard setbacks, over 100 feet from the west and over 200 feet from the east, that provides considerable separation and privacy for neighboring property owners. More than half the lot will remain completely undeveloped and in a natural state. As we see on the photos of the shoreline that I provided, there is a significant shoreline buffer. I would fair to state that it's an exceptional shoreline buffer, and any increase in built form will not have the appearance of dominating the waterfront area. So it would be my professional opinion that the proposed variance meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act and represents good planning. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you for your time.
Are there any questions from the committee for Mr. Allen?
Very concise.
Okay, then. That the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves variance application A 20230017H Calorie Dean to demolish and reconstruct the second non-complying dwelling. The second dwelling would be reconfigured in the existing location and increased in volume and height. The following variance to zoning bylaw 2006125 is required. Section 4.17B, reconstruction of non-complying buildings shall not increase the height or volume of the building. Variance is required to permit the reconstruction and expansion of the second dwelling, subject to a height of 7.9 meters and a gross floor area of 332 square meters, subject to the following condition. The extent of the variance will generally conform to that shown on the sketch plan submitted in the application. And 2, that the owner applies for and obtains the required demolition permits and building permits for the new dwelling within 3 years of the date of decision of the Committee of Adjustment. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Allen.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Ryan. We'll send you the decision shortly, and there's 20-day appeal period.
Madam Chair, would you please bring forward the next application?
Yes, the purpose of minor variance application number A-2023-0018-C for Spalvieri is to construct a single-story detached garage on the subject lands, requiring a reduction in side yard setback. No formal correspondence was received.
Is there anybody in attendance wishes to speak to this application? Committee, is there any questions, comments on this application?
I just looked at it as well as I could, and I could see no other place where the building could be located. It's not that huge an area, so it seemed to me to be appropriately placed and was fit in with the attributes of minor variance.
Anyone else? Any more comments? Okay, then. That the Committee of Adjustment hereby
Oh,
approves.
sorry, Mr. Chair. Last time I'll jump in. We just need a mover and a seconder.
Oh, okay. I require a mover and a seconder. Greg? Second, anybody? Wib? That the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves variance application 2023 at A's 20230018C Spalvieri to construct a 92.9 square meter single-story detached garage on the subject lands and requires variance to the following section of zoning bylaw 2006125. Section 10.3, table 10.2, minimum side yard setback, maximum permitted 5 meters, proposed 2 meters, Variance required 3 meters. Subject to the following conditions. The extent of the variance will generally conform to that shown on the sketch plan submitted in the application. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, thank you. Anyone watching on YouTube, this application has been approved and there's a 20-day appeal period. The decision will be sent out shortly. Thank you.
Madam Chair, would you bring the next file forward?
The purpose of the permission to expand application number A-2023-0019-H for Coulter is to request permission for a new 1-story 2-slip boathouse and boat port on the subject lands, and would also require an increase in maximum lot coverage within the first 60 meters of the shoreline. No formal correspondence was received.
Anyone in attendance that wishes to speak to this file?
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members and any members of the public watching. My name is Lauren Arsenault and I'm a junior planner with Morgan Planning and Development. I've prepared a presentation and I'd like to share my screen if that's all right. Can everybody see that?
Mhm.
Morgan Planning and Development has prepared a planning justification report on behalf of the owners of the subject property 116 Maplehurst Road. They are requesting the reconstruction and relocation of an existing boathouse. The subject property is located on the north shore of Lake Rosso, approximately 1.3 meters southwest from the settlement area of Rosso. And the subject property has approximately 1.42 acres of total lot area and approximately 43 meters of frontage onto Lake Rosso. The property is currently developed with a single detached dwelling, sleeping cabin, sauna, and boathouse, which is the subject of this application. The subject property is privately serviced. The application seeks relief from section 428(1)J, table 4.4, minimum lot frontage for a boathouse, and section 6.3, table 6.3, column 2, maximum lot coverage within 60 meters of the shoreline. And that's within the township zoning bylaw. The reconstruction and relocation of the existing boathouse will bring the structure further into compliance with the zoning bylaw by reducing the overall width and meeting the required minimum interior side yard setback, that's a projection into the water. Additionally, as part of the redevelopment of the property, shoreline area structures such as the sauna and attached decks will be removed to further minimize the built form impact along the shoreline. So here's a look at the existing 1-story, 1-slip boathouse on the left. There is a dock attached to the boathouse with an additional slip. On the right is the rendering of the proposed 1-story 2-slip boathouse. The owners have 2 boats and would like both to be covered and sheltered from the elements. The proposed increase in height is to accommodate the gable roof, but otherwise the height of the flat roof portion will remain the same, and the height does comply with the zoning bylaw. As you can see on the image on the left, the red roof is the sauna that's going to be removed, and there's a deck attached to that as well. And here's a look at the site plan for the proposed redevelopment. I will note that the owners also wish to construct a detached garage at the rear of the property. It's anticipated that the garage will comply with the zoning bylaw and therefore it has not been considered through this application. The garage will comply with the total lot area coverage and has not been included in the lot coverage calculations within 60 meters of the shoreline, as it's located well behind that area, which is shown in green on the site plan. You can see the footprints of the boathouse are very similar and that the proposed boathouse meets the 9-meter interior side yard setback where the existing structure does not. So if you can see my cursor here, the dotted blue line is what's the existing boathouse, and the proposed is behind the dotted blue line, 9-meter setback.
Mhm.
This is a look at the zoning matrix outlining the specific provisions this application seeks relief from and how the proposed redevelopment otherwise complies. We don't need to spend too long on this, I don't think. So Morgan Planning and Development had evaluated the proposed development of the boathouse as a minor variance under the 4 tests and found that the development did meet these tests as explained in our planning justification report, which was submitted June 16th. Upon review of the application, staff felt it was more appropriate to evaluate the development under section 45(2) of the Planning Act, which enables granting of permissions by a committee of adjustment for the expansion of legal non-complying buildings, provided the use was lawfully established prior to the zoning bylaw, and such use has not deviated since that date. Under section 45(2)(a)(I) of the Planning Act, the approval authority must consider the following. Is the application desirable for the appropriate development of the land? And will the application result in any adverse impacts on the surrounding lands? Morgan Planning and Development concur with staff's report and feel the development is desirable and not anticipated to result in any adverse impacts on surrounding lands. And just to this point, there has been numerous consultations with staff to ensure compliance with the zoning bylaw wherever possible. Further, staff noted on their site visit that the neighboring boathouse to the south was located close to the property line and recommended the proposed boathouse be shifted an additional 1.5 meters north above and beyond the 9-meter setback to avoid any navigational impacts between both uses of both boathouses, and the owners have agreed to this. In conclusion, Morgan Planning and Development is of the opinion that the proposed development can meet the 4 tests of a minor variance, but is comfortable evaluating the use under section 45(2) of the Planning Act, the expansion of legal non-conforming structure. We feel the proposed development is appropriate under either approach. Thank you very much for your time and attention. We would respectfully request that committee approve the application with the conditions as outlined in the staff's report. And I am available if you have any questions.
Is there any questions for Ms. Arsenault from the committee? None? I'm assuming that pathway that goes down to the old boathouse will be revegetated and the pathway extended down to the new boathouse from that landing area. It doesn't appear on the sketches, I don't believe.
Just pulling up the site plan. Just give me a minute here. So is this the pathway that you're referring to?
Yes, yeah, it just extends straight through to the new boathouse then?
Yes, I'm not sure what the plan is to connect this path to stairs here.
And the old pathway will be revegetated?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then. I require a mover and a seconder to bring this application forward then.
How's that?
Wib? Lynn? Okay, that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves variance application A 2023-0019H Coulter to demolish the existing 1-story, 1-slip boathouse and reconstruct a new 1-story, 2-slip boathouse / boat port one slip located within the boathouse, one slip located within the boat port. On the subject lands, the following permissions are required. Section 4.28.1J, Table 4.4, minimum lot frontage for a boathouse permitted nil, one-story, two-slip, proposed a one-story, two-slip boathouse, boat port, one slip located within the boat port, permission required. One-story, two-slip boathouse / boat port, one slip located within the boat port. Section 6.3, Table 6.3, Column 2, maximum lot coverage within 60 meters, 8%, proposed 13.7%.
Are you watering or no? Canada?
I'm sorry, okay. Section 6.3, Table 6.3, Column 2, maximum lot coverage within 60 meters, permitted 8%, proposed 13.7%, currently existing 11.9%, variance 5.7%, 1.8% from existing. Subject to the following conditions, the extent of the variance will generally conform to that shown on the sketch plan submitted in the application. That the owner applies for and obtains the required demolition permits and a building permit for the boathouse / boat port within 3 years of the date of the decision of the committee. And that the owner completes the shoreline road allowance application to purchase the flooded lands abutting the subject property prior to the issue of a building permit for the boathouse / boat port. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you,
Okay.
committee.
Thank you, Lauren. So the application was approved. You'll receive a copy of the decision in the next few days, and the 20-day appeal period now starts.
And Madam Secretary, the last file, please.
Thank you. The purpose of minor variance application number A-2023-0020-H for Adair is to demolish the existing cottage on the subject lands and to construct a new cottage requiring variance for an increase in lot coverage within the first 60 meters and an increase in maximum dwelling gross floor area. No formal correspondence was received.
Is there anyone in attendance wishes to speak for the file?
Hello, my name is Samantha Taylor. I'm from Steenhoff Building Services, who is representing the client in this. Forgive me, I'm a little bit sick today, guys, so I'm sorry. I'm here to answer any questions that you have about the request.
Committee, is there any questions regarding this application? Nothing? All right, then. I require a mover and a seconder for the resolution to bring forward this application. Greg. Wibb. That the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves the variance application 2023-002-H Adair to demolish the existing cottage on the subject lands and to construct a new cottage, requesting variance from the following section of zoning bylaw 2006-125. Section 6.2, table 6.3. Maximum lot coverage within 60 meters of the shoreline. Permitted 7%, proposed 8.1%, increase of 0.6%. Variance 1.1%, 0.6 from the existing. And section 6.3, table 6.3, maximum dwelling gross floor area permitted 449.3 square meters, proposed 485.5 square meters, an increase of 36.2 square meters. Subject to the following conditions. The extent of the variance will generally conform to that shown on the sketch plan submitted in the application. That the owner applies for and obtains the required demolition permits and a building permit for the new cottage within 3 years of the date of decision of the Committee of Adjustment, and that the owners execute an agreement with the municipality pursuant to section 4.5 bracket 9.1 of the Planning Act. And this agreement is to be registered on title, which will include provisions such as the submittance of a revegetation plan prepared by a qualified professional to be approved by the Director of Planning. All in favor? Carried.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Sam.
Thank you very much to the team at the township and to the committee. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We will send you off a copy of the decision shortly, and the 20-day appeal period now starts.
And next, other business.
Can I just have a question, ask a question on this last one? It says that-
Sorry, Len. Once we
No,
vote,
just
we
the-
can't ask specifics. If it's a general question, go
well,
ahead.
it's general. The question is, if, for example, there is a concern that there is no vegetation in the buffer area, would it not come under as a condition later on?
Sorry, Len, we do have a condition to incorporate a revegetation plan for that file, and that is what we can do for future properties if we feel that that's appropriate.
Okay.
Was that your question?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I'd just like to throw out there, I know Greg wasn't here for the last hearing, so we did decide, Greg, and hopefully you're okay with it, that we'll be going to a hybrid model starting in August. So for those members who would like to attend in person, they may do so, or still by Zoom, that's okay too. We'll have the technology similar to the council meetings that we can do both now. So that's great. And I would just ask if anyone does want to attend in person, if they can just let me know prior to the hearing, just because I'll have a list of who's attending. We do have some capacity issues with COVID still in the council chamber, so I'll just have to keep track of who's attending in person versus in Zoom.
I think you can count me in for attending unless you hear otherwise.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, feel free. I don't need to know right now if you want to think on it, but just reach out when you decide.
Thanks, Lauren.
Any other business?
I guess this is just another question, and it just comes about as a statement made in analysis and conclusions, and it says that legal non-conforming uses are intended to cease to exist. It's a very, very ambiguous statement. So how many of these non-conforming things are in the books? And I mean, if they're non-conforming, it seems to me it's really hard to do much in the way of changing things significantly. I mean, what does this in the long run mean?
But I think, sorry, Brady, I know I saw you took your mute off, so if you wanted, Len, it was one of the questions that I had when I first got involved in the committee, on the last committee. And the reality is in the township, a number of properties were developed prior to the current zoning
Right.
bylaw and the setbacks being established. And, you know, as a committee, I think we can't penalize people that are looking to redevelop or enhance their property because they built a structure, a dwelling or a cottage or some kind of a structure prior to the changing in the zoning bylaw. You know, if you had a cottage or you had a building that was built when you were allowed to build it
Mhm.
right on the water or 5 meters back, you know, in fairness, as a landowner or ratepayer, you should still be able to have, even though it's legal non-conforming
Mhm.
based on the current zoning bylaw, those persons should still have the ability to enhance their property. That was my interpretation. It was one of the questions. I had the same question when I first started, and it was one of the things that was explained to me early on. And I don't know if that helps. And if I'm
It
saying
does,
it
yeah.
wrong, Lauren and Brady, tell me so.
That was great, Greg. You have a job as a planner if you want it.
Not a
Yeah,
chance.
no, just like Greg mentioned, we do have lots of non-complying, non-conforming structures in Seguin. The Planning Act does allow for some flexibility with respect to expansions. Keeping in mind, we do have some restrictions. So for example, for non-complying structures in our zoning bylaw, you are able to expand through our our expansion table. However, you can only use this table once. So the owners can't expand and expand and expand. They're allowed the one expansion. And then if they wish to do something further, we might look at maybe getting them to comply with the zoning bylaw better. But there is flexibility in the Planning Act and our official plan zoning bylaw to allow for expansions of these uses.
Mhm.
If it's
So-
any
Right.
consolation, Len, this discussion with regard to non-conforming and non-complying has been going on for a long time. And there's an awful lot of people out there that are fairly well educated that still don't know what it means.
Well, it just seems to me that basically then you have two sets of rules, one for people who are within the proper framework, and then those who are non-complying. And I can see, I think Greg's explanation is good, and I understand it. It's just that eventually, I mean, I don't know how many of it could go on forever, I guess.
Pretty much.
But if you, like, for example, a person is non-complying and they've made all of the changes such as these people have, and then 10 years from now, they want to change their boathouse. But now are they within a compliancy regime, or how does that change their, ability to change their boathouse?
I think that would depend on if the boathouse itself was a non-complying or non-conforming structure. So we would have to evaluate that if that were the case.
So it's not non-complying whole property. It's non-complying on each specific portion of the property.
Yeah, it depends where the structures are located on the property and what the structures are.
Okay.
That it for other business?
Thank you. Sorry to delay the meeting.
Not a problem.
No problem at all.
Enjoyed it.
Okay, then. I require a mover and a seconder then for a resolution to adjourn the July 12th, 2023 Committee of Adjustment hearing.
I move.
Everybody
Greg
moves
and
that
Lynn.
one.
Okay, that the Committee of Adjustment for the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn this meeting at 4:49 on Wednesday, July 12th, 2023. The committee will hold its next meeting our next hearing at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, August 9th, 2023, or at the call of the chair unless the secretary treasurer has not received completed applications for committee consideration. All in favor? Carried.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See you on the 9th.